What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. And I wanted to do a quick review of the Kansas City Chiefs' 22-17 victory over the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football. I wasn't able to get anything out last night because, unfortunately, I did have to go into work right after the game. But I have so many thoughts after this win. And while there's still some problems with this Kansas City Chiefs team that are yet to be figured out, I saw a lot of encouraging signs in this game. And honestly, this is a good win. And you're 3-0. You're one of only 5 undefeated teams left. And at this point, you can't have too many complaints. And that's why even after the Cincinnati Bengals win, while very ugly, I acknowledge that you just played the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. Those are two very good teams. I mean, you were lucky to be 2-0 after those two games. And then the Atlanta Falcons are also a good team. I mean, they made a lot of moves this offseason. They're loaded at the offensive skill positions. They brought in Jesse Bates a couple years ago and then followed that up with bringing in Justin Simmons this offseason, who's always been Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite. Even had an interception in last night's game. They made that late trade for Matt Judon from the New England Patriots. I mean, the Falcons really loaded up this past offseason. So you've played 3 good to very good teams in the first 3 weeks of the season, and you're 3-0. So from that aspect, I don't have too many complaints. But looking a little bit closer at this game specifically, first of all, I thought it was a little weird how Adam Schefter had leaked from the Atlanta Falcons organization prior to this game that this was basically the Falcons Super Bowl. Tweeted about how they thought this was the biggest game in the organization in like the last 10 years. I thought that was very strange. Only the Kansas City Chiefs get that type of treatment from other teams. I mean, Adam Schefter basically admitted it. I mean, that he is a mouthpiece for the Atlanta Falcons organization. He basically came out and said it that we are their Super Bowl. We were the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl. They took this game extremely seriously, and we still came out on top. And this is just a Week 3 regular season game to us, and we were still able to win without playing our best football. I thought the Chiefs played C+, B- game last night, and they still came out with the victory. But let's start with the positives from this game. So, first positive that I have that I'm going to talk about, Rashee Rice continues to look like a bona fide number 1 wide receiver for this team. Had over 100 yards again last night and a touchdown. And after that game, Rashee Rice now leads the entire league in yards after the catch. For so many years, we enjoyed having Travis Kelce, who was dominant in yards after the catch, and we seem to not be really missing a beat now that Rashee Rice has kind of taken over in that department. And it's really awesome to see. It's really awesome to see the wide receiver that he's blossomed into so far in his young NFL career. He's already ahead of where I thought he would be coming into this year, so just really encouraging to see that from Rashee Rice, because this offense, with the injuries and everything like that, they need a dependable target. And that guy appears to be Rashee Rice. So that's something that I really was appreciative of coming out of this game. My next positive was Carson Steele. Last night he had 17 carries for 72 yards, which is good for 4.2 yards per carry average. And that's exactly what you want to see out of him. I was curious to see what he would look like in his first career start. And he looked formidable. I mean, he looks like he belongs out there on an NFL field. That's what you want to see, especially from a undrafted free agent. I mean, that's about as good of a performance as you can expect from an undrafted free agent's first start in the NFL. I thought he was very solid. He got a lot of chunk yardage on first and second down for the Kansas City Chiefs offense last night. Obviously, you want Kareem Hunt to come into the fold at some point and help out that running back room, but Carson Steele was a very pleasant sight to see, and I think he definitely solidified his spot in any sort of running back rotation that's going to form itself throughout this season. Juju Smith-Schuster is also another positive. It was nice to see him find the end zone, 2 catches for 17 yards and a touchdown. That's exactly why you signed Juju Smith-Schuster, is because of that touchdown that he had. I know there was some mixed reviews about bringing back Juju Smith-Schuster, but you would much rather have him out on the field than a McCole Hardman or a Sky Moore or a Kadarius Toney, though Kadarius Toney's not on this team anymore. Of course, there was debate about whether or not he should make the team after Juju was brought back, but that's why you'd rather have Juju out there, because he's good for plays like that, and you can trust him. He has chemistry with Patrick Mahomes, so it was really nice to see him find the end zone again last night for the first time since returning. Then, of course, man, how can you not talk about this defense? I thought they were really good last night. I was curious to see how they would perform against the Falcons offense with all the skill position players that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. I mean, they're absolutely loaded, man. And the Kansas City Chiefs have struggled to cover tight ends through the first 2 games of the NFL season. They cleaned that up a little bit in this game. Kyle Pitts only had 2 catches for around 50 yards last night. And so far through 2 games, a lot of the blame for not being able to cover tight ends has gone towards linebacker Nick Bolton, who I'll get to in a second. But last night, the 2 big explosive plays that Kyle Pitts had were really at the hands of the safeties. If you want to sneak peek one of my negatives, Justin Reed wasn't great in that game, though he did have a big tackle for a loss down the stretch there. But overall, it was kind of a rough game from Justin Reed. But the defense as a whole, I thought looked really good. The defensive line, the pass rush still wasn't great, but I'm not too concerned about them yet. It was also nice to see Felix Anudike-Uzomah get in there with the sack. But Chris Jones was able to wreak a lot of havoc. He even forced a illegal hands to the face penalty on the Falcons offensive line. And then there was also just a terrible roughing the passer call that was called on Chris Jones, and it was just horrendous and gave the Falcons life early on offense. But the defense really, I thought, bounced back after a shaky performance against Cincinnati, to say the least. But it was really all headlined by Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton has been a popular punching bag among Chiefs fans for his struggles in coverage, and rightfully so. I mean, I even said it. I'm a Mizzou fan, so I like Nick Bolton. I'm a Nick Bolton defender, but he was pretty bad in the first couple of games, and I have no trouble admitting that. But last night, it was a reminder of the player that Nick Bolton could be, and he stamped his name all over this win with that final tackle for a loss on Bijan Robinson to seal the game on 4th down. Just a fantastic game from Nick Bolton, and you love to see it after the fan base has been ragging on him, and I get it. I understand, but every time Nick Bolton has a bad game, there seems to be this, he's the worst player in the league freak out from a lot of Chiefs fans, from a certain portion of the fan base. I've never understood that. Yeah, he has his moments. Yes, he's not the perfect player, but there's a reason these coaches like him. He provides a lot of value on the field that cannot be seen in the box score and that the average fan would typically miss because of the adjustments that he's able to make. He's the green dot on defense. But last night, he was just tremendous, and it was a reminder of the player that Nick Bolton can be. He has his rough games, but there's also a handful of games where he's the best defensive player on the field. And last night, Nick Bolton was the best defensive player on the field for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think the biggest reason that they won that game. When the coaches, Steve Spagnuolo more specifically, utilize Nick Bolton in the correct way, which is let him play up close to the line of scrimmage, simplify his assignments and coverage, he can be so damn effective like he was last night. He doesn't need to be running downfield with Kyle Pitts. That's not his game. And a lot of times this coaching staff puts him in position to fail like that, asking him to do things that he simply cannot do. Same way that Dan Sorensen on this team, I talked about this with Michael Darcy on the Kingdom Crew podcast, but remember in 2021 when Dan Sorensen was so bad in coverage, but it got to a point where Steve Spagnuolo just was setting him up to fail by putting him back there over and over and over again. And then later in the season, Dan started to play up closer to the line of scrimmage again, almost like a dime linebacker, and he didn't stick out as much. Same logic with Nick Bolton. Obviously, Nick Bolton, a much better player than Dan Sorensen, because there's not too many games where you could say Dan Sorensen was the best player on the field. Last night, Nick Bolton was the best player on the field for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, yeah, if the coaches just utilize Nick Bolton correctly, he's a damn good player. And last night was a perfect example of that. And then my last positive, Wanya Morris at left tackle. We were all curious to see what the Kansas City Chiefs would do at the left tackle spot after Kingsley Suamataia really struggled in the first 2 games. They decided to start Wanya Morris And I thought the left side of the line was pretty quiet. I thought Wanya Morris did a really good job, and I think he has to be your starting left tackle going forward. And that's not to say that Kingsley can't take that role back from him later in the season, but he needs to sit back, learn, develop, I think, before you throw him out there to the Wolves. Wanya Morris is more experienced. He looked like the steadier presence last night. And at the end of the day, this is Patrick Mahomes' health we're talking about, his protection on the blind side, and I wouldn't want to risk his health by seeing what Kingsley Suamataia can do in a regular season game at this point in his career. So I think Wanya Morris is the starter going forward there. Now for my negatives. Offense still seems to be missing something. Patrick Mahomes looks really off on his throws. I've said this on Twitter and I'll say it on here. It seems like in the first 6 to 8 games every single year, Patrick Mahomes just has a couple throws a game where it's like, what the hell are you doing, man? And last night, threw that pick to Justin Simmons. Did not look good. Patrick Mahomes looks very pedestrian. His connection with Travis Kelce is off. That's another negative. Travis Kelce, where the heck are you at? What's going on? I know he started off slow last year, but at least last year he had the injury excuse. But this offense kind of needs Travis Kelce, and he's been a little invisible. Mahomes has to be better. He took accountability for that last night. He understands. I'd like to see them utilize Xavier Worthy a little bit better. He's been quiet since his coming out game in the opener against the Baltimore Ravens. Offense just seems to be missing something, man. Red zone offense, too. And then the drive that really frustrated me was the last offensive drive where the Kansas City Chiefs got a stop on the Atlanta Falcons on 4th down. The first time, Kansas City Chiefs take over on their own end of the field, immediately go 3 and out, and then puts the game back in the defense's hands and forces us to sweat it out at the end. I don't like when we have those games. Yeah, it's great to see the defense make a stand, and it gives me confidence in this defense, but I really don't want to see every single game come down to the defense getting a stop on 4th down in the red zone. Can we please not do that? That would be nice if Patrick Mahomes and the offense wouldn't go 3 and out. Yeah, that's one of my big negatives. That's got to get figured out rather quickly. 3rd down efficiency also wasn't great for Kansas City. They were only 6 of 14 on 3rd down. You simply have to get that percentage up on 3rd down, and that really just goes into my negative of the offense. And really, that's the offense is just one big negative that you could divide up into a bunch of sub-negatives. There's a lot that we need to see start changing, and I understand that there's injuries. I understand that you have a lot of rookies in this offense. You have an undrafted free agent rookie that you're starting at running back, but we can't continue to put this stress on the defense. Like I said, it's gonna lose you a game at some point. If you play against a better team, and I'm not saying the Falcons are a bad team, but you play against a better team, could come back to bite you. Even the Ravens game. Yes, we were able to come out with the win, and that was an awesome, thrilling game, but if Isaiah Likely's foot is just an inch back, you lose that game probably. And I just need to see this offense figured out because the magic number is 24, 25 points or so. When the Chiefs fell under that 25-point threshold last year, they lost most of their games. They were able to win last night without hitting that mark, but I'm not sure that's going to be true for every single game. You can't bank on the defense to consistently bail you out. That's why we signed Hollywood Brown and drafted Xavier Worthy. Of course, Hollywood Brown is out now, probably for the rest of the season, which is why I would like to see them bring in another veteran wide receiver, maybe at the trade deadline or something like that. And you kind of have to speed up Xavier Worthy's progression because with the way things are looking and how Travis Kelce has started out really slow, this offense looks kind of similar to last year where Rashee Rice is the only dependable target, and I don't like that. So we'll just have to monitor the Chiefs offense going forward. And that's really all I have for the negatives portion. I kind of mentioned Justin Reed earlier. Rough game from him if you were to single someone out, maybe on defense. Just a lot of positives from this game, though. I think it was a good win in the end, and I don't have too much to complain about. Leo Chenal was great again. Mike Pennell had a sack while he was still on the ground on Kirk Cousins. That was kind of cool. Yeah, it's a good win, and it was an entertaining game. And I can't believe I have to talk about this again, but of course there's more controversy with the officiating with the Kansas City Chiefs. Shocker. People are complaining about it because the refs missed what probably should have been a pass interference on Brian Cook when he was covering Kyle Pitts in the end zone. And I don't think it was super obvious. I don't think it was as obvious as people were suggesting. It was easy for the refs to miss that call. Now, yes, should it have been PI? Probably. But let's not forget, on the Falcons' final drive of the game that happened after they forced the Chiefs to go 3-and-out, the refs called a phantom pass interference on Trent McDuffie that put the Atlanta Falcons in the red zone, and they couldn't take advantage. So the Chiefs very easily could have lost because of that, but they didn't, because their defense made a play and the Falcons' offense failed to make a play. And that's what separates the Chiefs from these other teams. The Chiefs don't need the refs' help. The Falcons lost last night because they needed the refs' help to win. And that's not how this is going to work. So I'm just tired of this constant bitching from fans of opposing teams. I can't believe I have to talk about this again. It just seems to be a weekly thing. They will always find something. They will find one singular call somewhere to complain about. And that's just what it is. But I feel the need to sit here and rationalize it. But yeah, Kansas City Chiefs win. They're 3-0. Good win over the Falcons on Sunday Night Football. Again, not too many complaints, but I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs 22-17 victory over the Atlanta Falcons in Week 3 of the NFL season? Would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. With all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this, and make sure you check out my work on ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com for more. I'll see you all in the next one. Go Chiefs!